What do you think was the first thing that James Dobson saw when he got to hell?
Oh, interesting. I mean, probably Ted Bundy, right?
Yeah, it was Ted. And I think he had a whole like heaven-style waiting room set up. And he like shows up and he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And then he peels the skin off of his face and laughs.
Yeah, and then peels the
like a
stuff off
chick
the
tract.
walls. Yeah.
It was me!
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast where we peel off our faces every week and cackle like a damn demon. I'm the worst of all possible Bryans.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm Peel's face off.
Face peeling.
Oh, God. Oh.
I'm the worst of all possible judges. Ha, ha.
Well, welcome back, everybody, for another week in the pop culture of Dying Empire. And this week, we are covering a show that is very near and dear to me, AJ's heart, Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown. I did not realize this. You two had very little experience with Anthony Bourdain before I made you watch the show this week.
You're correct. I know Anthony Bourdain for four things. One being the Kissinger Cambodia quote that everyone shares around. Two being the episode of Archer that he was on.
Yes.
As Bastard Chef. Three being a clip from the Jerusalem episode of Parts Unknown that we're watching today.
Mm-hmm.
And four being that he is responsible for one of my favorite places in New York.
Which one?
Which is?
He's not responsible for it existing, but he's responsible for it expanding as much as it did. Xi'an Famous Foods.
Oh, it's so fucking good, dude.
It's just a genuinely excellent place. Bourdain went to this one place in Flushing and was like, this food's so fucking good. And Xi'an Famous Foods expanded outwards to like Manhattan and stuff. And the first place that I ever performed in New York with AJ and with Josh.
Yeah.
Anne, Josh's spouse, who we've had on the show a couple times, was like, "Oh, dude, you need to try this." And so I ate there before we did that show.
Yeah.
And then it became an obsession of mine. They have a picture of Bourdain in every one of their places.
Well, and it's one of those success stories that's so rare, actually, for a lot of the things that Bourdain endorsed over the years, because if you like, I was just curious about this because I did a whole rewatch of Parts Unknown for this episode, and I started like just looking up like, where are the restaurants now? Did they survive the pandemic? And for the most part, most of the places that you see are no longer around.
I should say, in fairness, restaurants generally don't tend to last a super duper long
I learned
time. It's
that.
not the nature of the industry. Even successful restaurants, I mean, I don't know what the median like lifespan is for a given restaurant, but it's not at all uncommon for a very successful restaurant to only run for 5 or 10 years.
Well, what about you, Josh?
My exposure to Bourdain was always kind of a secondary thing, right? I would happen to see him on the Travel Channel or CNN or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I was broadly aware of his impact because I like food. I like good food. I like good, cheap food, which is sort of hard to come by.
Yeah.
The man obviously had a taste for truly fine dining, which I also do. But you can't do fine dining every day unless you are very rich or a food critic. And so Bourdain's whole thing was about finding these excellent places like Xi'an Famous Food, where you could eat food that was prepared to a very high standard, and also tending to focus on restaurants that brought in a range of ethnic and cultural influences.
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than staying in one specific palette, he really tried to sample as wide of a range as possible, with always the idea that there's something about enjoying a good meal with other people, or sometimes even just on your own, that brings you closer to the rest of humanity. And that's something that I always found really, I don't know, meaningful.
Yeah.
And so when Bourdain died, even though I hadn't really seen a lot of his stuff except in passing, I mean, I had watched the Detroit episode of Parts Unknown, which
we will talk about today. Yes.
And I have some opinions about it. There is something about that really beautiful humanism, just the pure humanism of like, let's get closer together by celebrating our commonalities. In what purer way can we do that than by cooking and eating food together?
They talk about that a lot. There's a behind the scenes episode that they did in the last season of Parts Unknown, which was released posthumously to Bourdain's death in November of that year. And there's an episode where they talk to the crew members about their experiences, and they said, like, you can interview someone and get nothing out of them, but the minute that Tony would sit them down and have a meal with them, all of a sudden they opened up and they were able to talk about their life and their culture and were so much more open than otherwise. And that was sort of the magic, I think, of Anthony Bourdain, was his ability to get people to talk.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that comes from his background as a professional chef. The story of Anthony Bourdain's life begins with an oyster. He was born on June 25th, 1956 in Manhattan and spent most of his childhood in New Jersey. He was born to a man named Pierre Bourdain, who worked as a camera salesman and a floor manager at a record store and would later go on to be an executive at Columbia Records. Holy shit, what a climber he was. And his mother, Gladys, worked as a copy editor for the New York Times. Let's put a pin in that for later. He was a punk kid. He was full of anger and rage against the man. He spends a formative summer in France when, at the age of 8, he takes a fateful trip on an oyster boat with his family. The pilot of the vessel, Monsieur Saint-Jean, offered apologies in advance.
I don't think that's how it's.
Apologies for the French for the rest of this episode.
No, we don't apologize to the French. We never apologize to the French. You fucking do something about David Cage, and then maybe we'll apologize to the French.
I just wanted to say, Monsieur Saint-Jean is actually the French name for the character Mr. Satan.
What?
From Dragon Ball Z.
Oh my God!
He's goofing, AJ. That's not real.
Bourdain could feed Goku as much as he wanted.
He could.
But you know what?
He could.
He'd never get full.
He sure wouldn't.
Yeah.
He'd always go for that second oyster. And speaking of oysters, this Monsieur Saint-Jean, or Mr. Satan, offers Bourdain...
just say Mr. Satan. It's
oyster.
more dignified.
Yes. Mr. Satan offers Bourdain an oyster fresh pulled from the sea. And Bourdain describes the experience thusly. Brian, could you read this?
Oh, yeah. Give us your best Bourdain.
I took it in my hand, tilted the shell back into my mouth as instructed by the now beaming Mr. Satan.
That's not what it says.
And with one bite and a slurp, wolfed it down, and it tasted of seawater, of brine and flesh, and somehow of the future. Everything was different now. Everything. I'd not only survived, I'd enjoyed. This I knew was the magic of which I had until now been only dimly and spitefully aware. I was hooked. My parents' shudders, my little brother's expression of unrestrained revulsion and amazement only reinforced the sense that I had, somehow, become a man. I had had an adventure, tasted forbidden fruit, and everything that followed in my life. The food, the long and often stupid and self-destructive chase for the next thing, whether it was drugs or sex or some other new sensation, would all stem from this moment. I'd learned something, viscerally, instinctively, spiritually, even in some small precursive way, sexually. And there was no turning back. The genie was out of the bottle. My life as a cook and as a chef had begun.
Brian, I gotta say, for somebody who hasn't watched a lot of Bourdain, you can that is a pitch perfect representation of his cadence.
I was watching it all. I was cramming it all last night and this morning. So
yeah.
No, but I had a question for both of you about this particular quote. This is from Kitchen Confidential. Yeah. What does this tell you about Anthony Bourdain as a guy?
Well, I would say he's horny.
Well, it's the oysters.
Like, that's a big piece of it, right? There's something about food that's very libidinal for him. I guess we'll put it that way.
Yeah, there's a point. I was watching the Malaysia episode from No Reservations, and he's eating some noodle dish, and he's like, "Can I say tumescent?"
Yeah.
It feels to me sort of a lot of early Bourdain to me, even up through No Reservations, up through specifically the Beirut episode of No Reservations.
Yeah,
there is an instinct of Bourdain to portray the bad boy chef, right? And it's a thing that he talks about.
Chef.
Yes, the bastard chef. It's a thing that he talks about a lot in Medium Raw when he comes to grips with the performative aspect of what he's doing, right? The thing that got him famous, right?
I feel like too there is this element of, he said he grew up idolizing writers. He got into the kitchen thing kind of accidentally.
Stumbled into
it. He loved food, but his big thing was he loved reading people who wrote about travel, like Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
And so this feels to me, this passage feels like he's imitating these other writers. He wants you to feel like he is like these people who wrote about their travels in this way.
And I also think that the sensual aspect of it and the sexual aspect of it is, I mean, you talk to any fucking chef. This is just, they don't sound like this.
This is true.
I will say, they don't talk like this because Bourdain is associating himself with a certain pretense, I guess. He is a very, he was a very pretentious guy, straight up. But if you strip it all back, if you strip away all of the pretense of this writing, what this is talking about is this incredible moment where all of your physical senses activated on eating really good food. And if you talk to any chef anywhere who is worth their salt, they will have a story like this.
They have an origin story, every single one. And if you watch all of Parts Unknown, every chef he interviews, what was the moment? What was the moment that activated you?
It's we're theater people. It's we all grew up seeing movies and maybe seeing a play or a concert or hearing a song or something. But then there was something that hit us at some age where we were like, oh, fuck. This can go so much further than I ever understood.
God, yes. We talk about that on the show all the time. I mean, did either of you have for food specifically, an oh my God moment?
I can't relate to food in the way that Anthony Bourdain or that any kind of gourmand does.
I
have
do.
had some food that has made me go, holy shit, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But not in the Ratatouille, the whole world goes away and there's colored lights swirling around everywhere.
I had one of those. It was one of my first trips to New York, actually. I went to a Chinese restaurant that I'm pretty sure is not around anymore, but it was a 5-course meal, fine dining place. And we got served these duck tacos, but they were lettuce wrapped, so it was a lettuce wrapped duck dish. I took a bite of it, and that was my Ratatouille moment. The camera fully zoomed in, and I was like, oh my God, things can have such flavor to them in a way I just had never really anticipated.
I've had a few goated bites in my time.
Oh God. Can you imagine if that was in Kitchen Confidential? I had a goated bite.
I like to think that if he'd stuck around a little longer, I could have gotten Anthony Bourdain to say the phrase goated bite. But
could goated bites have saved him?
I've had a few really great restaurant experiences that were just delightful from end to end. But the Ratatouille moment for me actually happened just last month in Edinburgh.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Riley Quinn from Trash Future.
Okay, this is not surprising at all. Okay.
who took, before the Trash Future live show, we all went to a place called Cafe Saint Honor or Honore. I don't know. It's French. I don't fucking pronounce French.
Cafe Mr. Satan.
Cafe Mr. Satan. And
oh, that's who James Dobson saw when he got to hell.
And
it was Mr. Satan.
I got the trout. And it was a nice, sort of nicely seared trout. I bit into it and I started crying because it tasted exactly like my grandpa used to make trout that we would catch from Lake Michigan and then, sear it on the grill. It could not more literally be the Ratatouille moment, right? Where I had a flashback to my childhood and putting that goated bite of trout in my mouth.
The door to the kitchen opens and you just see your grandpa poke his head out with the big chef's hat on and goes, hee hee. Speaking of fish, hey, one of the first jobs that Bourdain works is in Provincetown, Massachusetts, or P-Town as it's known, in 1974. And he gets his ass handed to him by all these professional line cooks because
that happens in Provincetown.
Because here's the thing is that Bourdain here's the thing is that Bourdain read all the cookbooks, read all the fancy French cuisine. Yeah, he was going in there he fucking knew everything. And then he was asked to move a steaming pot from one stove to another, and he burned his hand and dropped the pot and was laughed out of the room, basically.
Yeah.
And, credit where credit's due, it like calcified like a revenge in him. That embarrassment calcified into, I will become the greatest chef of all time.
Oh, that's like the plot of The Bear.
Yeah.
Is that the plot of The Bear?
Pretty much.
I haven't seen The Bear.
He's trying to get revenge against Joel McHale because Joel McHale is very mean to him and very abusive toward him at this Michelin 3-star restaurant in Copenhagen.
Is Joel McHale the bear?
No.
The bear is grief.
Oh.
So anyway,
Joel McHale? Grief? What is this? A leather
So
bar?
true.
So he joins the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, which unlike the real CIA has never done anything wrong. And so Bourdain goes to Vassar for 2 years. He drops out after 2 years to attend the Culinary Institute of America. And after graduating, he starts up a catering company in New York City proper. And during this time, he is doing a lot of drugs and is basically taking chef jobs at various restaurants that are all what he refers to as being on death's door, where he is the chef who comes to put them out of their misery, basically. So
he goes there and it closes in 2 months and then he goes to the next one. Yeah.
He was in Kitchen Confidential, he talks a lot about how he was just chasing the money. Like he just needed to like get the money to keep feeding his heroin fix. He would go to the Lower East Side and in the final episode of Parts Unknown, which is on the Lower East Side, he's like pointing to all the buildings where he used to get his heroin, and then he would go and listen to, like the Strokes play and shit.
Interesting. Was that last episode of Parts Unknown supposed to be the last episode of Parts Unknown?
No.
Okay.
It was just supposed to be another episode, and they turned it into a series finale.
But I can imagine that, maybe being back in the place that was very bad for him for a very long time might cause some long suppressed feelings to start rising up again, maybe.
Sure. And I also feel like, they don't film these in chronological order, too.
Right.
That's the other big
right,
thing.
because I know he was in Alsace when he died shooting another episode.
Yeah. And so who's to say? But it was very clear in that episode that he did get kind of emotional and like wistful for the good old days or whatever. So by 1998, he has become the executive chef of, apologies for the French again, Brasserie Le Hall.
Okay, that's brasserie, first of all.
It's brazier, Josh.
Well,
Brasserie Le Hall.
We shorten it to bra.
We say brasserie here in America.
It's the brazier from hell,
bra
or
of
Mr.
Hell.
Bra Satan.
It's Mr. Satan's hell bra.
It's Mr. Satan's heaving bosom.
So the
French have every right to hate us.
They do. Oh wow, what's that? All of France gone? All right. So
finally, thank God,
he has achieved his lifelong dream of being a professional chef in charge of his own kitchen. So now the fuck what? What's the next big thing to chase? Well, how about becoming a best-selling author? So in the year 2000, he releases Kitchen Confidential, which tells the story of Bourdain on the front lines. It is provocative, edgy, and it revels in the punk rock, misogynist, and sometimes criminal underbelly of the restaurant industry. So before this, Bourdain had written books. He had written 2 murder mysteries set in kitchens. One called Bone in the Throat, and a second mystery novel called Gone Bamboo.
So these were published?
They were published, and he tried to do a whole book tour, and they just both flopped.
Okay.
It was not successful either time. And then in 1999, Bourdain submits an unsolicited article called Don't Eat Before Reading This to The New Yorker. That's because the editor for The New Yorker, David Remnick, reads the piece at the insistence of his wife, Esther Fine, who at the time was working with Bourdain's mother at the New York Times.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
David Remnick is immediately enthralled. He's like, who the fuck is this punk rock guy? Let's get this thing in the New Yorker.
This is the coolest guy ever.
At this point, he'd be 33 years old, so still young enough to emerge.
And had graying hair at this time, rocking that shit. So the article immediately catches the attention of the publishing world. Ooh. And Bloomsbury signs a book deal with Bourdain to publish an expanded version of that article, which would become Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly.
Okay.
The thing is a smash hit. It's a New York Times bestseller. Whoa. It spawns, and I swear this is true, a Fox sitcom that ran for 13 episodes, starring Bradley Cooper as Jack Bourdain.
Let's call her L. Simpson. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, why?
I have no idea. But again, the thing about Kitchen Confidential, the thing that makes Kitchen Confidential work is that it is edgy, right?
Yeah.
He talks about a bride fucking a guy for the first time on her wedding night.
As it should be, yes.
That's not her husband back bent over a dumpster.
Oh, never mind.
Like, this shit is like...
That isn't how it should be. That's
Did she work in the kitchen? Why was that relevant?
No, she just they were hosting a party or whatever.
Was this something he was catering or like?
No, it was, they came to the restaurant late at night in P-Town, and she came in the back, and
she did.
Yeah. And she talked to one of the fry cooks, like whispered something in his ear, and he was like, okay. And he went out back, and then they all gathered around the window, and she was just fucking getting railed against the dumpster.
People really don't, up until this point, don't really know what goes on in kitchens unless they have worked in a restaurant. And it would offend a lot of sensibilities, the things that happen in kitchens. The kinds of things that people can't do in most workplaces, you kind of have to put up with in a kitchen because like half of those guys learned how to do what they're doing in prison, you know, like.
And you're all in close proximity. It's hot.
It's high stress.
You're getting cut. You're getting burned. Everyone's screaming all the time. That's just how it works. You're working with all this high volume of food, you know?
Yeah, and he talks about how somebody gets their fingertip cut off, and then they go downtown, get it sewed back on, and are back on the line in like 2 hours. I think he later reflects on how like it was not great behavior, but like he would like yell and scream at people that they could not call out. They could not call in sick, right? He was just like, they would pretty much be fired for doing that. He said, don't give me an artist on the line. I don't want artists. I need line cooks. I need my roaming gang of pirates, right? Is how he described most of the kitchens that he worked in. Kitchen Confidential is huge, and he's able to spin that success into a travel show with the Food Network called Anthony Bourdain's A Cook's Tour. Have either of you watched any of A Cook's Tour?
Mm-mm. So this was a special or a couple of specials or
no? This ran for 2 seasons.
Oh, it was a whole
Network.
Series.
It was a whole series. Yeah.
Okay.
It is so grungy. So you see the template for Parts Unknown in Cook's Tour, right?
Yeah.
You see Bourdain's point of view pretty explicitly. He's really leaning into the bad boy chef thing. The footage is all over the place. It's pretty much exclusively focuses on the food and not really the culture element behind it. It was also filmed using 2 Sony PD100 DV camcorders, and it makes me motion sick.
Yeah, this was Food Network, you said?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, this is not surprising. And I mean, if you've ever seen any kind of travelogue show or Food Network show, you know, that's not Emerald like cooking in the big studio kitchen. Like that, this is what they all are. I'm assuming this was actually pretty generic. You know, you're not getting a whole lot of personality from it. It's just, here's the place, here's the food. I make a snarky joke. Here we go.
I'm looking at this camcorder. I think my family had one of these.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.